Hello everyone and welcome back to the Council of Elrond, a Lord of the Rings podcast brought to you by the Mellon Heads, where we discuss all things Lord of the Rings. And on today's episode we are going to discuss why Elrond is half-elven. So where did this title come from and what is the history between himself and his twin brother, in case you didn't know he had one. Don't forget to leave us a rating and a review in your podcast platform of choice, and also check us out on YouTube. All the links are in the description below. I'm Dave, and as always, I'm joined by your co-host and my brother, Jonathan.
Hello? We're not twins, though.
No, we're not. But he's a pair of dead. So before we begin, thank you to all of our patrons. And if you want to support us, that is the best way you can show us any sort of support, but especially financially, because that's the best way.
Give us some money.
Also, a special thank you to Jack Knightley. So let's get into this episode.
The time of the elves is over. My people are leaving these shores. Who will you look to when we've gone? The dwarves?
So, Jonathan, did you know that Elrond is half-elven?
Who?
Elrond.
Who's he?
Do you know, the Rond.
Oh, Elrondo.
Elrondo, yeah.
Sorry.
So,
you need to use his proper title.
Elrondo. So, Gil-galad calls him what in the Rings of Power?
Oh, we saw him call him Elrond Peredel.
Peredel, which, of course, means?
Half-elven.
Yes. So, in what language?
Like, that's in Sindarin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Peredel is half-elven, and then Peredil means, like, the plural half-elves, which is...
all the half-elves.
Yeah, which is funny that they have a word for that when there's only, like, a couple of half-elves, but sure, look, we'll get into that. We're going to look at why Elrond is referred to as these names, because there's more to it than meets the eye, folks. So I think at first we have to go way back to the beginning of time. No, just the beginning of Elrond's time. And he was born in the havens of Sirion with his twin brother, which is, what's his name?
Elros.
Exactly. To his mother and father named...
And
you have to pronounce it properly as well.
Eärendil.
Perfecto.
And Idril.
No.
Oh, sorry. I'm getting confused. His mother.
His mother.
Oh, Elwing.
Yes, Elwing. So Eärendil and Elwing, and Elrond was born in the year 532 of the First Age.
Yeah, sorry. I'm always getting confused. Idril is his grandmother.
Idril will come up.
That old family tree is a
grandmother. Yeah. So the twins, when they were just 6 years old, the Havens were attacked by none other than the Sons of Feanor, who are a bunch of naughty boys in the book, The Silmarillion.
Jerks, some might call them.
Jerks, yeah, because if people don't know who the Sons of Feanor are, they're basically a bunch of lads who took an oath to find the Silmarils at whatever cost, and that could include killing some of their own kin, which they definitely were involved in many a time.
It happened.
And yeah, in a couple of different kinslayings, but also... If you don't know what the Silmarils are, then how would you describe the Silmarils?
Well, that's what the Silmarillion, that's where it gets its name. So the Silmarils are the three precious jewels that contains the light of the two trees of Valinor. And they were really, really important jewels, and Morgoth really wanted them, who was the big baddie. And it basically just started a whole revolution and a war and kind of a civil war, I suppose. And it just caused a whole load of bullshit, really.
Yeah, it was a whole ordeal. And they were actually created by Feanor, and he ended up losing them, and then he wanted them back. So, and we thought we saw the Oath of Feanor in the Rings of Power trailer, but that just turned out to be nothing.
It was a little teaser.
Oh, yeah, it was a teaser. And so
it teased me, but then it didn't give me the payoff. So I was like, damn.
So we need to know that Elwing, which is Elrond's mother, was actually in possession of one of these Silmarils. And when all the Sons of Feanor came to sack the havens of Sirion, she basically saw all these boys coming, and she was like, oh crap, and she decided to just commit suicide and jump into the water, which was a very questionable decision, because she had her two sons that were there, twins, at 6 years old, and she was like, yeah, no, screw them, I'm gonna save my Silmaril and just jump into the sea. And if anyone's wondering where Eärendil was, I don't really know. He was just out being a mariner. He was out sailing the seas. That's what his passion was. And he was gone for a long time. Kind of like Lord Corlys from House of the Dragon. That's what it
just missing father.
Yeah, he was just an absentee father. So Yeah, that's where he was. But luckily for Elwing, she was saved by the Vala of the Seas. Now, do you know who the Vala of the Seas is?
The Vala of the Seas is. I'm just thinking. Oh, Rome.
No,
oh
it's
my
kind
God.
of close to the name though.
I know. Flip. What's the first letter?
You.
Ulmo.
Yes.
Oh God.
Yeah. So
Those Vala, like, you think you have them. You think you have them nailed down, and then the next day you're like, what was his name again?
Yeah.
God,
I always get mixed up between like Arome and Aule and Ulmo and all them. But it's good. We're learning, which is good, because I remember first learning about the Valar and just I couldn't tell any of them apart. Or I didn't know any of their names. I didn't know who was who.
Such a racist.
Yeah, I know. But so Elwing jumps into the sea, and well, does she try to commit suicide? Maybe, but she basically just jumps in because she was lost of hope. But do you know what becomes of her?
Kind of like Galadriel then in the Rings of Power, jumping into the sea where it looks like there's absolutely no hope. It's a terrible decision, but she kind of just trusts that everything's going to be grand. And maybe
is that some sort of callback or some sort of reference?
I think in the series, wasn't it in the final episode where Galadriel says something like, "Oh, I just had to." What was it? I had to trust that this was the right thing to do, and it kind of seemed like maybe she was hinting at the fact that maybe she was hoping for a bit of intervention from the Valar or something like that. I don't know. Maybe it was a throwback, but either way, that's what Elwing did.
Yeah, exactly. So
and she did get saved.
Yeah, it seems like maybe back in the Silmarillion days, the Valar were much more
hands-on.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you read the Bible, how God was more interfering in matters in the Old Testament, but then the New Testament he was barely around, and now we see he's barely around. But anyways, Elwing. Do you know what became of Elwing? She didn't necessarily die, but she was saved by Ulmo.
Elwing, hang on, let me get my family tree sorted out because I was getting all confused there before. So hang on, I've figured it out because Idril married Tur.
Yes,
they were
get into that.
Yeah, sorry. So I was going back to that, and then their daughter was Elwing, and she married Eärendil. What happened to Elwing? Because now I'm going to
clue in her name.
Yeah, because she flew away.
she
flew away.
She did. Safely flew away.
You tell the story there because I'm going to get all confused. I'm going to confuse our listeners.
Basically, she kind of just transforms into a bird or a swan. It's a white bird, I think it says in the book. So most people imagine her or vision her as a swan, and she basically goes in search of Eärendil, so she flies across the seas, and then she basically, I think it says she bored herself to Eärendil's boat, so she basically binds herself to the boat, and I don't know what that means. She becomes part of the boat, kind of like the creatures in Pirates of the Caribbean that just like become part of the Flying Dutchman. Yeah. That's what I imagine.
So maybe like Eärendil's ship has just this cool big sort of like, you know, at the front of a ship, there's always
stern,
like,
is it? Is that what you call it?
The
front where you usually have like a mermaid, or
what I was going to say, like the actual like sculpture that's in the front there, the little thing. It's not a gargoyle, of course, because that'd be like a building or something.
Yeah, but, like a stone.
I don't know what you'd call that, but maybe that's where Elwing's hanging out.
Yeah, probably. So basically, and at this point she still has the Silmaril as well in her possession, even though now she's a swan and she's part of a boat. So basically, meanwhile, back at the havens of Sirion, we've got the young Elrond and the young Elros, 6 years old, and they are captured by the sons of Feanor named Maedhros and Maglor. Now, there was other sons of Feanor at this battle, like basically this big sacking of the havens of Sirion, and a lot of them died. And I think, Maedhros and Maglor, I think their sons, or at least one of their sons, were killed in this battle. So lots of bloodshed. But I think personally the decision of both Eärendil and Elwing are questionable, because in chapter 24 of the Silmarillion it reads, "Great was the sorrow of Eärendil and Elwing for the ruin of the havens of Sirion and the captivity of their sons, and they feared that they would be slain, but it was not so." So basically, Eärendil, he's off with his bird wife that's attached to the boat, and He could, in my opinion, he could make a decision or a choice to just turn around and go back for the sons, but like he doesn't know how they are or if they're alive or not. But it goes on and it reads, "Yet Eärendil saw no hope left in the lands of Middle-earth, and he turned again in despair and came not home, but sought back once more to Valinor with Elwing at his side." So, I don't know what that means. That kind of means that he just abandoned his children yet again and was like, no, I just want to go sailing and I want to go to Valinor. And actually, I never mentioned this, but it's kind of set in Eärendil's heart that he wants to go to Valinor and he wants to sail there.
But it's not just to retire. Like.
No.
He wants to go there and have a word with the Valar. And be like, lads.
Yeah, exactly.
Come over and help us out, will you?
Yeah, so, but I think, I don't know, there's something about him. He's the mariner. He just seems to just love being at sea and he never wants to return home. Again, like
my
Davy
love,
Jones.
My love and my lady is the sea.
The sea is always right.
Like that song. Who's that by?
I don't know.
Can't remember, but it features heavily in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Oh, does it? Sing it again.
It's about, and it's like Kurt Russell who plays the God character Ego. He quotes the lyrics to that song later on. He says, you know, oh, I wanted to like spend time with your mother, Peter, but but my like the lyrics of the song, my life, my love, and my lady is the sea. So it's like I couldn't bind myself to one woman. It was just the sea was the one for me.
All right. And does Chris Pratt say? Did you just say lyrics of some song or?
I can't remember that much now.
I
just remember being like, I love that song.
Love Kurt Russell as well. So, anyways, back to the twins. So they're captured by both Maedhros and Maglor, but Maglor in particular pitied the twins, and he ends up actually raising them, and he grows to love both of them. And I think this is because in that battle he had lost, I think it's 2 sons. Now, I don't know, and I don't know their names, but I'm pretty sure there was, you know, a 2-son hole left in his heart that he needed to fill.
So it's like when the family dog dies and everyone's so upset, and then there's like really, I don't know, like an uncle or something comes, he's like, I see your Labrador, your Labradoodle just died. Here is a new Labradoodle. And you're like, it's not the same thing. It's not the right time.
Yeah, but this is worse. It's like your children were butchered in a massacre, and it's like,
here's some new kids. Children. Yeah, you go, that's the same, right?
Yeah, so they were at first in captivity, but, you know, kind of like what do you call it? What's that effect? The capital of, oh, God damn it.
Stockholm effect.
Stockholm, yeah. The Stockholm syndrome. So it's kind of like the opposite of that, where the captors become in favor of the captured. So, yeah, so anyways, shortly afterwards, the War of Wrath begins from the years 545 to 587 of the First Age. And this is something that Eärendil is actually going off to get the Valar to intervene with, right?
Yeah.
So, right. So that comes a bit later. So both sons of Fëanor that we mentioned, Maglor and Maedhros, they both died or basically are lost after this war. Not particularly in the war. I think, so it says that Maedhros dies in a fiery chasm. So that could be anything. Whereas Maglor, he actually... We're not going to get into it, but after this war, he ends up coming into possession of a Silmaril and he just chucks it into the sea.
But so does the other lad. Both of them do.
Maglor.
Yeah, like in the fiery chasm, he goes in there with the Silmaril.
Exactly, but he's dead.
I know, yeah.
But the other guy, he's not so much dead, he's just kind of lost. He chucks his Silmaril into the water, and it is said that he still wanders the shores to these days, and I think he's singing some lovely tune. But
haunting tune, probably.
Yeah,
but basically... They managed to reclaim the other 2 Silmarils, and they kind of got driven mad by them because they were so
beautiful.
Not that they were so beautiful, but they were so the light was so bright in them that it kind of like it was almost a burning light. And I remember it burned whichever one, I think it was Maglor. It burnt his arm or something, and it just the pain drove him insane.
Yeah,
and he ended up just like jumping into a fiery chasm with the Silmaril in order to just like kill himself and take the Silmaril with him. And so basically the 3 Silmarils ended up, one ended up in the sky, one ended up in the sea, and one ended up in the fires of the earth. So there was like the 3 different elements.
The elements.
So there you go.
That was the 4th element.
Oh.
But yeah, Maglor, impressive. I actually remember that, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I remember the early days of the Rings of Power TV show, lots of people thought, oh, maybe Adar could be Maglor because he's an elf. He looks evil. Not that Maglor was completely evil, but he was twisted with the whole Oath of Feanor. But also the fact that you said there he had a Silmaril and it physically burnt his hand. And a lot of people said, oh, I wonder, Adar, he wears one hand that's like covered in like armor, basically. So that was a theory that was running around. And I thought that was a cool one as well. That could have been cool, but...
Yeah.
I don't know, is it hearsay that Maglor died in a fiery chasm, or is that confirmed? But sure.
Wait, who's who now? Which one died? Was it Maedhros or Maglor that died in the fiery chasm?
Oh, sorry, Maedhros. Maedhros died in the fiery chasm. Who?
So Maglor.
Oh, so he's the one that's still alive, but the Silmaril burnt his hand still.
No. I don't know. We're getting all confused here. We need to... And get back to Elrond.
This was not like in the preparation of this episode at all.
We've read this stuff ages ago. We need to... It's hard to remember all that stuff. Also, who's the son of Eol?
Of who?
Eol the elf, the dark elf. The guy
God.
that...
Didn't I play him in someone's video?
No, you played the we played these two boys, the two sons of...
Oh, you played Curfin.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. We're going off.
I thought I played Eol.
No, you didn't play Eol. I don't think so.
I played him. I played him somewhere.
Played him in your heart.
But anyways, so after these two sons of Feanor are gone, dead, or just vanished, this basically leaves the poor twins Elros and Elrond on their own at the young age of 58. That doesn't seem that young, but young for an elf.
Think of like Baby Yoda.
Exactly, yeah. So Baby Yoda, when he's like 50, he still can't speak. So
that's what elves are like.
So it is at this moment that the Valar, who we've mentioned them loads of times, but they're basically the gods of Middle-earth, in case anyone doesn't know what word we're talking about. The Valar give the twins a choice whether to be counted among the elves and continue to be immortal, or whether they want to be counted among the Edain, which is like the fancy name for men, and receive the gift of mortality, as it's called in the book. And of course we know Elrond chooses what?
So Elrond, we know he becomes an elf.
Yeah, or stays an elf, I suppose.
Stays an elf.
And then Elros chooses to be counted among men. And so basically, after that decision, the twins depart, and Elros followed his father's star, Eärendil, and the star is basically, that's one of the Silmarils.
One of the Silmarils, yeah.
So
now,
that's
just before you skip on,
yeah,
the reason that the Valar gave this choice to Elrond and Elros, it wasn't just like, just for the crack. It was like, because Eärendil had sailed to Valinor to plead for help from the Valar in the war against Morgoth, then he asked for more. Well, he asked the Valar to come. They ended up coming. They win the war. They kind of break the earth, and there's a big ordeal. And
they sink basically half of the continent.
Yeah, Beleriand is just gone, wiped out, and because basically Eärendil himself was also half-elven, he was the one who was able to go and sail and speak to the Valar on behalf of both elves and men. And so because of all these things that happened, then the Valar basically said, look, because you guys have basically saved Middle-earth from coming over and making this big plea while you're on your father's behalf, we'll now give you the choice to decide if you want to be counted among the elves or among the men. Because Eärendil had gone over and made this plea on behalf of both. Because other people had gone before. Other elves, for example, had gone before to try and make this plea to the Valar. But they said, no, we need someone to plea on behalf of the men as well. And they were like, what? Why do we need that? Sure, just come on. Can you not see that Morgoth's, raining fire and blood over there? Can we not please somebody come and help? And they were like, nope, we need someone who can speak on behalf of both men and elves. And that was...
He was the perfect man to do it. Or elf. Or perfect
elf
person.
Man.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely perfect. So I can
just
skip over that part in my notes, so you said it all perfectly well.
Oh, sorry. I thought maybe you'd...
Oh, no, like that. No, I was
okay.
going to ask you that anyway. So.
All right, well, there you go. Jeez.
You hit the nail on the head and you didn't even know it.
I didn't.
I do think it is funny, though, how you mentioned, and you're absolutely right, like the Valar gift this, or they give the choice as a gift, but for saving the world. But it's like, well done for coming over here and asking us to save the world. Like,
yeah.
Good job, you. Or it kind of reminds me of, Zootopia, where they go to investigate and they talk to that...
The sloth?
They talk to that like creature, the smelly creature who's like, oh, the elephant remembers everything, and basically he's trying to get the information out of the elephant, but he's the one that remembers everything, and the elephant's like, no, I don't remember. He's like, yeah, you do. They had the license plate that said L3492. Like, you remember that? And the elephant is like, no, I don't remember. He's like, yeah, you do. He's got a blue jumper and a red hat. And he's like, well, elephant's a genius. Yeah. So that's what the Valar are like. Well done for saving the world. But yeah. Oh yes. So after that, where are we? So Eärendil, anyways, he's got one of the Silmarils, which is the one that his wife has given him, and it's kind of become the light of Eärendil, the star, and it's like the shiniest light in all of Middle-earth, and everyone looks to this star. But anyways, that's what Elros decides to follow over the sea, which led him to where, Jonathan? Sorry. So Elros basically decides he wants to get in a boat like his old man and go sailing the seas, and he follows the light of Eärendil, which is his father's star. He follows the light,
and that takes him to Númenor.
Númenor. Yes, Númenor was, again, another gift from the Valar, which is newly risen land that was gifted to the Edain, and there Elros becomes the first king of Númenor, and do you happen to remember what he changed his name to? It's a bit difficult, but
I wouldn't have a clue, no.
So we have in the
Tar or something.
Exactly, yeah. We have Tar Palantir in
Tarmac.
Tarmac Adam. We have Tar Palantir in the Rings of Power TV series, and but all the kings went as Tar for some reason. Yeah, I think it means something.
King.
Does it? Maybe it does. Yeah. He became Tar Miniatur. First king of Númenor. Yeah, like
I knew that. Yeah.
You know them all, but like
no, but I always remember that one because it sounds like one of those like kind of
Minotaur.
Yeah. Like, is that the like half horse, half man thing?
It's like half bull, half
yeah. It's like a man's body with a
bull's head and body. It's the thing that's in the labyrinth in that old.
How do you pronounce it? Minotaur. I thought
Minotaur,
it was like Minotaur.
You could say Minotaur, but you'd be incorrect. No, I think some people do say Minotaur, but
those people are weirdos. Like
that sounds weird to me.
So he was Tar
Miniatur.
I
so
knew it was similar.
There's a Y in there, anyways. So I was going to ask you, why did they get the opportunity to choose between men and elves?
I spoiled it. I'm sorry.
Well, no, you spoiled it, but there's more reasons. So. Okay, let's just I'll let you answer. But Aragorn and Arwen are one of 3 man and elf unions in all of Tolkien's writing, and it's 4 if you include Bronwyn.
Don't even do it.
But in fairness to the TV show, like a lot of people were annoyed by that, but I did like how it was taboo for them to be together. It wasn't just like a thrown away thing. And one of the elves says to Arondir, like, you know, that there's only been 2 of these ever before at the time, because this is before Aragorn and Arwen. And he's like, and they both ended in tragedy. So I do like how it's known, or, you know, the writers didn't completely ignore the fact that this is a big deal.
Yeah. They're not there making some world where elves are just hooking up with humans all the time.
Exactly, yeah, because I think that's what people thought, like, oh, if there's going to be an elf-man relationship, maybe it's not important to the showrunners at all. But anyways, where are we?
Also, just to go back on that thing where a lot of people said, oh, I've got a theory that Theo is the son of Bronwyn and Arondir. I was like, there's absolutely no way of that, because in the part where it's not even when they have the kiss, I don't think, it's when he says something like, when she says something like, oh, it's almost like a kind of Eowyn moment where she's like, don't you know? Or something. And he's like, I've told you 100 times in every way but words.
Yeah.
Basically that, you know, he does have feelings for her. He does, like, you know, he does love her or whatever. And so if she's still unsure about whether or not he's into her and they have a child together, then that doesn't really...
She could be a sleut.
But also, we need to remember that elves are just this kind of race. They're like swans, you know. They mate
penguins, for life. Yeah. Where they have one mate, and if that mate dies, that must suck, like. Because imagine if Bronwyn did die in the first season. Poor Arondir, he'd be distraught.
Well, look, whether she dies whether she died in that battle or she dies, you know, 30 years from now or 40 years,
she's going to die.
It's the same, and he's just going to be like, damn it.
She's a woman in middle-aged time, and like, you know, no one had great life.
And their lot was unhappy, I think, according to Tolkien, was the quote. They had an unhappy lot.
So we have Aragorn and Arwen, and who are the other unions of the union of women? Who are the other unions of men and elves?
So we have Elwing and Eärendil. Well, okay, right.
Yeah.
So first of all, going back to
not really. They're not really. Yeah.
That's
not a union of men and elves.
Okay, fair enough. Right. So going to Elrond's grandparents, which is Tuor and Idril.
Yes.
Tuor is a man, cousin of Turin, Turin Turambar, and Idril is of the house of, I don't know. Oh, she's a daughter of your man, the king, Turgon.
Right. I don't have any of this written down.
Okay,
so you're just spoofing, but it's good spoofing.
No,
it sounds
because
good,
she's either the daughter or like the granddaughter or something of Turgon. No, the daughter of Turgon, because remember it was Turgon who left the shield and the sword in the cave, and then Ulmo appears to Tur.
Ah, right. Okay.
And then all that spiel.
Okay.
And then so that's the first one.
Mm-hmm.
What's the other one then?
Oh, the other one is the most famous one.
Oh, Beren and Luthien.
Yeah, the most famousest of hobbits.
And then both of those end up. So then Beren and Luthien, their son is. I'll get it. Ed. What's his fucking name? It's like John or something very normal.
That's Kevin.
Kevin. Yeah. No, what's his name?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I'm letting you.
I thought you had written down.
The only thing I had written down was Idril and Tuor were basically on the twins' father's side.
Yeah.
But on the mother's side is Beren and Luthien.
Yeah.
That's their ancestors.
So Beren, and also Luthien is the daughter of Melian. And so she is
she's part Maiar. Or part Maya.
She's part Maya.
But so is Elwing, I believe.
Yeah, because Elwing is the daughter of...
Yeah, exactly. I actually have...
confused.
At the end of this episode, I'm going to break down something. Someone has done the mathematical equation of exactly how half-elven Elrond is.
Exactly, because I'm like, he's always half-elven. I'm like, he's definitely not, because his father's at least half, and then his mother's got a bit of bad in her.
Your mother was a donkey,
and your father was a hamster.
That's it. Your mother smelled of elderberries.
Oh, the other way around, yeah.
Or whatever.
I don't know.
But yeah. So we got the
right.
Those are basically at this point in time there are two huge union of men and elves, and that's Idril and Tuor. And then there's Beren and Luthien, and both of their descendants ended up smushing. Getting together, and therefore we've got Eärendil and Elwing coming together and having the sons Elros and.
But there was also, as we said, a Maya thrown in there just for the crack.
That was a weird weekend. So, anyways, I think we should move on. So, as we said, mortality is a gift from Eru himself, who is the god of Middle Earth. Elros accepted it on behalf of his descendants. Elrond did not. But the gift was still on the table, so basically that's why we see Arwen and her brothers, spoiler alert, Arwen has some brothers, they had the chance to accept it on their own behalf, but Elros' descendants had already been given it before they were born. So that's why some people might be like, why is it that Elrond's children get to decide, this decision again, but Elros, all his sons are just going to be men. Elros made the decision for his descendants, which is kind of sad. But Elrond and Elros were given this choice, and all other half-elves to come. Sorry, yeah, and all other half-elves to come. So, I think, we never hear of... Well, we do hear of Arwen's son, obviously, but she's chosen immortal life. But the other two, her brothers, I don't know, do we ever hear of their sons? Basically, if they had kids, they would have also gotten the choice to be men or elves as well. So, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, and this is where, so I said Arwen gets to make the decision, and she basically becomes a man. Or she becomes an Edain. She becomes part of the race of men. So, Johnny, why do you think Elros chose mortality?
Jeez, it's a deep question.
It is.
Well, first of all, if anybody's wondering, like, why in the hell would anybody even consider choosing to become a man?
What in the hell is diversity? Sorry, go on.
Basically, in the world, in Middle Earth at the time, mortality was given to men by the god Iluvatar, and it was considered a gift. It was his gift to men, to the race of men, that they would die and then they would go off, and nobody really knew what would happen to the race of men. Everybody knows, in that land at least, everyone knows that the elves are immortal, but if they are killed, for example, if they die from battle or something like that, or a sickness,
they don't really get sick, and they heal quickly, but battle mainly.
Yeah, but if they can be, like the torment that Elwing receives, or Celebrian receives, for example, she gets sort of not like wounded, but she gets like she can't really stay in Middle Earth anymore. She needs to leave and go back to Valinor and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, if you're an elf and you get killed in battle, for example, your spirit just floats back to Valinor and you just become immortal there as well. So the elves are immortal. Their bodies can be killed, but their spirits are just immortal. And everybody knows, sure, look, you just go back to Valinor and then that's fine. And it's just a fact. Everybody knows it. Whereas when men die, nobody knows what happens to their souls. Nobody knows where they go. So they they go beyond the circles of the world. So there's just a lot of mystery, and it's kind of like this, I wonder where they go.
Yeah.
It's kind of this mystery, and it's almost like this.
But it's kind of fun for them.
It is fun for them. That's what I'm saying. So it's kind of like when they had that kind of thing, it was like, do you want to become an elf and you know what your fate is going to be? You know where ultimately you're going to end up, or you can become a man and you can just sort of take on that mystery and be a bit of like a voyager.
It's kind of like
adventurer.
Do you ever see those? Do you ever see those videos? I think it's like Mr. Beast, the YouTuber, and he goes up to people and he's like, okay, you can put your hand in this box and you'll get $1,000, or else you could put your hand in this box and it's a mystery. You don't know what you're going to get. And then like most people put their hand in and get the $1,000, but he's like, oh, you just missed out on like $500,000 or whatever, or like, or it could be a sandwich either. But that's what like men decide to do. It's like, oh, will I just like, or sorry, when you're making the decision to become a man, it's like, will I just take the easy option to go for that $1,000, or will I put my hand in the mystery box? You never know what you're going to get.
Maybe when you die, you just become a sandwich.
That is the moral of the story.
Is that what you're saying to us? I got a bit confused there. I'm hungry. I want a sandwich.
Oh man, I'm so hungry too.
Sandwiches after this podcast?
We can't pause the podcast. Damn, no. Right, sandwiches after the podcast. But yeah, so yeah, why did Elros choose mortality? Don't avoid the question.
I was definitely avoid. I was like, why would one choose? I don't know.
There's no concrete answer for this, but like, I'm just asking, like, why do you think he would have chosen mortality?
There's definitely an intelligent answer in there somewhere that I don't have in my head.
You don't possess it.
I do not possess it. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, can you enlighten me?
Well, look, I have some generic crap here. I've got so obviously nobody fully knows, but perhaps he had seen enough misery in the elves and wanted to change. But this is strange because he is so young. Like, he's 58 when he makes this decision. I would understand.
Was he that young when he made that? Oh,
yeah, they were 58 when basically they were given this choice by the Valar, and you would understand if there's a lot of miserable elves.
If he'd lived thousands, if he'd lived to be like 40,000 years, he was like, oh, another birthday. And I can't even fit these candles on the cake anymore. And
he's a 40,000 candle cake. Yeah, no, but perhaps it's because he actually felt closest in spirit to the Edain, and perhaps there was also a deep knowing instilled in his heart that the Edain actually needed his leadership in the future to come, and the fact that there was going to be this new land, Numenor, and there was going to be a king, and it was his destiny to become that. So I don't know, it's just kind of destiny in Tolkien's world. It wasn't really, we don't get into the mind of Elros and know what his decisions were, but yeah, he was destined to become the first king of Numenor.
He felt akin with the men of Middle Earth
and became a king.
He became a king.
He did. So what about Elrond? Why does Elrond choose immortality? This one's a little bit more set in stone. It's only a short answer, but
is it something to do with his father?
It's just to do with elves in general, the race of elves. And the state of Middle Earth. The absolute state of it.
State of the gap. Well, he definitely knew that he needed to like protect Middle Earth.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna bluff an answer because I don't.
Yeah, bluff away.
Like I don't know. I don't know if I can come up with a satisfactory answer now.
Well, Elrond, like he loved the elves, and he
was like the lore master as well, and he knew that like his knowledge was going to be important. He also was foresighted, so he was going to be a huge asset going forward in like the wars of Middle Earth, and just like in order to be able to finally rid the world of evil. And he probably just maybe selfishly knew, look, they need me out there. So I'm going to just stick around, because if I become a man, maybe I could live a nice, peaceful. His brother Elros became a man. He lived to 500, so he could I could live a nice to 500, and then make my way out and just say, "See you later, lads," and take the easy way out. But maybe he knew it was more of a sacrifice to say, "I'm going to stay and I'm going to live on in these tough times in Middle Earth. I'm going to try and bring a bit of peace back, a bit of prosperity, and I'm going to try and help the race that I'm also." A bit of a spokesperson for this race, because he's like half-elven as well. He's kind of, and it was like a special thing, I suppose, then to be half-elven, because as we know, there was so few of them.
It's not so special to Gil-galad though, because he just goes Elrond Peridale.
That's Gil-galad from the Rings of Power. That's not my Gil-galad.
Not my Gil-galad.
It's not my truth.
Well, Elrond, he sympathized with the race of elves, and you're right. I actually don't know when he gained all his powers and abilities. Like,
so was any of my bullshit there true?
Kind of like he wanted to assist the elves in healing the hurts of the world. More or less, you were there. You were around the gaff. So he just basically. What you said actually makes me feel even better about the answer. That he.
Oh, thank you.
He was assisting it not just because I'm one of the like thousands and thousands of elves here, but he actually had good powers going forward. So I don't know, was he born with the powers of foresightedness and healing and all that kind of stuff? But maybe he was. Probably.
Maybe.
Like when he's 58, he probably already was quite an expert in these powers, and he was like, no, I'll take one for the team. I'll stay back. I'll be an elf, and I'll continue to master in these abilities and help heal the world. So you just mentioned it literally there 2 seconds ago, but I was going to ask you, was Elros, after he made his transition to a man from an elf, was he just an ordinary man, or what kind of man was he?
He was not.
No.
He was a big man.
He was huge. He actually was huge.
Yeah, he was giant.
Yeah, he was a big man.
He was like,
how big was he?
There are rumors.
Rumor has it.
He was like 2 meters tall or something.
I don't have the answer, but like if we're going by men in Numenor, they're all huge, like 7 foot or something.
Yeah. So he was a big man.
But what else? You mentioned something else that was peculiar about this man.
His age.
Yes.
So he lived to 500 years.
500 years. Yeah.
So because he was originally born an elf and then he transitioned into a man, he basically, he had different blood.
He had different blood, but
genes. And
this was also like a little secret secondary gift that the Valar gave him.
It was a little bit of like sugar on top.
Yeah, it was like
icing on the cake.
You could change, like you could have the ability to change, but you can stay older a little bit.
It was
longer.
like a little negotiation tactic where they were like, which would you like to be? Would you like to be a man and you die, or you would like to be an elf and you just live on in this whatever the stage, this land that we've just broken half of the earth? And he's like, what if I become a man, but you just pump up my life expectancy a little bit?
Could you sweeten the deal up?
Could you sweeten her up there a bit? And so he lived on to be the longest living man of 500 years, and he started the race of the Númenóreans, as we know. He founded Númenor. And all of his descendants became the Númenor. How many children did he have?
Oh, how many children? I don't know.
He must have had a load. Because, he started the race of the Númenóreans. And they're all descendants of him. Yeah, but that's why they're all long-living people as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but it's thousands of years as well, and I suppose they all had to inbreed in there.
A lot of that going on.
They don't mention it per se, but they all came from the one person. So
yeah, sure. It's like what we were talking about the other day with your man Charlemagne.
Yeah, Charlemagne. Whatever, is that his full name?
I don't know.
the ancestor of Count Dooku, or Sir Christopher Lee. So I put this up on Twitter, and then I was corrected by someone who seems to be...
Not corrected, just like enlightened.
Enlightened. Yeah, no. Yeah, enlightened by someone who seems to be an expert in Charlemagne and everyone's descendantry in Europe. And apparently, if you're from Europe, we're all
brothers and sisters of some lad.
Yeah,
called Charlemagne.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
Are you man? I was going to say
Charlemagne.
I was going to say Khal Drogo. Your man, the Mongol.
Oh, Khan. Emir Khan.
Oliver Khan.
No, Genghis Khan.
Genghis.
Yeah, but we understand
Not
he banged
football.
half of China, so like.
Yeah, all of Mongolia and China was just like they're all related to him, and all in Europe were all related to this lad Charlemagne. So
But
Charlemagne didn't give us any fucking long life.
He only had 18 kids though, which
and he probably lived to about 42.
He's still going now. He's still going around now. So yeah, you've touched on everything perfectly well. He lived to 500 years old. He started the line of kings, and who would you say would be his most noticeable descendant that people would know?
Of who?
Of Charlemagne. No, of
Elros.
Elros.
So
the line of kings, which eventually led down to whom?
To Elendil and Isildur.
Exactly. And to
Aragorn.
Yes, so for any book or film fans, Aragorn comes from the lineage of Elros, which is weird because he ends up marrying Elrond's daughter. So that's why, again, it's not incest, but like...
It was like
there's a lot of
generations.
There's probably more, isn't there?
Maybe is it? I can't remember the number.
Someone's
counted it out before, but also we need to remember that these generations are also Númenórean generations, so they're extra long.
Yeah, but again, like you mentioned already, that Elros was the longest man. He was like the Methuselah. So after that, like people's lives just started getting lower and lower. But we know Aragorn lived to 210. 210, which was a great number. So, by the time he died, it was just less than half of the lifespan of Elros. So, yeah. So we, of course, see Númenor in Amazon's TV show The Rings of Power, and it's set thousands of years later, where we have the faithful versus the faithless. And this whole topic of mortality and immortality.
I can't get no sleep. That faithless?
Oh, that's all. Is that the name of it?
Faithless is, yeah.
Oh, right. I thought that was Sandstorm.
No. That's faithless.
All right, okay. So anyways, the whole topic of mortality and immortality is very prevalent amongst Númenóreans, and this will certainly play a vital role in the fate of Númenor, no spoilers, and the TV show coming ahead. So are you looking forward to seeing what becomes of Númenor, or like this whole development of the faithful and the faithless?
Oh yeah,
like this, like they touched on it a good bit in the first season.
Yeah, I pointed out in one of our episode breakdowns that I was really happy that Elendil has a little moment where he thinks Isildur is dead, and so he kind of gets angry, and he gets angry at the gods, and he's like, curse you, and he's like, shake harder, son. That whole thing. And we get this kind of moment of, oh my God, is he going to turn away from the path of the faithful? And I was saying, I hope to God the next episode he's back on track. And that's exactly what happened. He was back. He was like, okay, sorry, I had a little moment there. I just had a little tantrum, which is understandable as well. He just like, oh, my son's dead, Which,
but I like in the show how they didn't give us too much of Númenor. Like they only introduced it in the third episode. And, then they
I want to see more Númenor.
They had this whole thing where they go to Middle Earth, and, that's kind of... I just didn't think that they would really get into the whole faithful and people that are siding with men. Like, people that are only for men, and then you've got the likes of Elendil, who is still one of the faithful, and he still has allegiances with the elves and all that. So I didn't really think much of that would come into play in season 1, but they've definitely more than set the groundwork for later seasons.
Oh, it's going to be good.
Yeah, so that's great. I'm just glad they're not going to have to introduce this whole concept and idea in season 2 and be like, right, so basically half Númenor is split, and not in the way that it will come. But
not even half. It seems like it's all
it's
for the men, but basically you've got a couple of little pockets of people hiding, being like, are you one of the faithful? Me too. Nice one.
So, that kind of wraps up most of the episode. I did say, however, that I wanted to read out something that I found on Quora Digest. So, Andrea Levo on Quora Digest, he has determined that Elrond, however, is not half-elven in his mathematical breakdown. So, the rest of this is going to be a quote from him. So, I'm sorry if I'm...
Andrea,
Levo. Is that could be a woman?
Could be a girl. Andrea. Or could be...
Or Andrea.
Or could be Andre.
I don't know.
Anyways, Andrea, we're very sorry. We don't know if you are...
Don't worry, they're probably not listening. This was probably written years ago and they're dead now. No, just kidding.
Back in the 80s. Yeah.
So anyways, he says, or she says, first, the term half-elven is not limited to children who are a percentage elf and a percentage human. It applies to anyone who is a percentage elf. For example, Luthien, who is half-elven, was 50% elf and 50% Maya. So that was something that we kind of touched on a little bit there. So also, allowing for Luthien, your percentage would be off. Elrond's grandparents were Tuor, who is 100% human, Idril, 100% elf, Nimloth, 100% elf, and Dior, 50% human, 25% elf, and 25% Maiar.
Dior was the name I was looking for before.
Dior, yeah.
I was like...
Dior has rock.
Yeah, that's Dio, but Dior is like that.
I was trying to make Lord of the Ringsy.
Okay,
go on.
I was going to say Dior like the
brand,
the brand, the aftershave or the
Johnny Depp brand, isn't it?
Does he do Dior?
I think he's the Dior ambassador. Well, maybe not
Ambassador.
Ambassador. So Dior's parents were Luthien.
So Nimloth was the other one there.
Nimloth,
because Nimloth is what else is Nimloth, Dave?
What
else does Nimloth mean?
Nimloth. Is this a Lord of the Rings thing, or is this? Oh, right, Nimloth.
Question for you.
Oh God, there's a place named or a thing named after Nimloth, isn't there?
Nimloth is a thing.
Oh, is it a leaf or a plant?
It's the white tree.
The leaves of Nimloth.
The white tree in Numenor is called
Numenor.
the Nimloth. I can't say Numenor.
I know, yeah.
Without
Numenor.
Yeah. So basically, then the white tree of Gondor, of Minas Tirith, that we see in Lord of the Rings, is one of the seeds of the Nimloth is taken by Isildur and it's taken to Middle Earth, and he plants that and he creates the white tree. So it's a seedling of the Nimloth. So there you go.
You're getting lots of great facts here on the Council of Elrond.
There you go.
Oh, the Council of Elrond. We're talking about... We should call it the Council of Elrond Half-Elven. That's what we should call today's episode. Maybe we might. We might edit that in. Anyways, Luthien, who was half-elven, was 50% elf and 50% Maya. So also allowing for Luthien... I'm just reading these exact quotes, so maybe they're arguing with someone. They say your percentage would be off. So Elrond's parents were Tuor, who's 100%. Oh, did I read this one already? Sorry. Tuor, 100% human, and Idril, 100% elf, had Eärendil, who's 50% human, 50% elf. Dior, 50% human, 25% elf, 25% Maya, and Nimloth, 100% elf, and Elwing, 25% human, 62.5% elf, and 12.5% Maya. So finally, Eärendil, 50% human, 50% elf, and Elwing, 25% human, 62.5% elf, and 12.5% Maya, had Elrond and Elros. This would make Elrond and Elros 37.5% human, 56.25% elf, and 6.25% Maya. Elfin. So yeah, like
Elfin.
Yeah, Elfin. So 56.25% is a lot closer to 50%. So the exact half-elf point. And this person goes on to say, I believe it is because he had such a high percentage of elf and human in him, in addition to the little bit of Maya, that allowed him and his brother to make the choice, in addition to Eärendil going across the sea. But I just thought that was quite interesting. So you have elf and human, but then there's also a little bit of Maya thrown into the mix, which comes from their ancestries.
Yeah. No, I always had wondered. That's interesting because it's just like if you have any sort of a percentage and you're not just a thoroughbred elf, basically. If you have any sort of a percentage, you get
known as... mongrel, isn't that what you said the last time?
Yeah.
Okay. He's a mongrel.
He's a mongrel. Well, the mongrel is when you don't know...
Yeah, I suppose we know exactly.
We know exactly now. So do you.
So
you know these 37...
37.5%
man.
Man.
50-something, 52...
56.25% elf and 6.25% Maya. So from now on, I don't ever want to hear anyone say Elrond Half-Elven. You say Elrond 56 6.25% Elven. No, Elven, yeah.
Just rolls off the tongue.
Yeah, they had to round it down. But yeah, that sums up the episode. I do have...
Sums up? We've just been summing up. Right, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We've been doing a lot of mathematical equations here, but I have this part called Elfacts. Or it could be Elf Facts.
Elf Acts.
I have 3 facts and one final little quote to finish off the episode if you'd like to hear them. So the first one is Elrond. His name in Sindarin translates to Star Dome or Elf of the Cave, which is kind of... I saw another translation that said Cave Fairy or something. So I don't know. I got these translations online, so they're facts to me. They might be incorrect to you. So another fact about Elrond is he founded Rivendell, which is nice.
He sure did.
And
where did he found it?
He found it under his mattress. So another fact is, well, lots of people know this, but if you're new to Tolkien and you might be watching the TV show and you see the relationship of Elrond and Galadriel and you think, oh, they're buddy, maybe they'll end up together in the future. But no, Elrond eventually marries who?
Celebrian.
Who is?
Galadriel's daughter.
Exactly. And they have 3 children together. Could you name these 3 kids?
Elrond's children. Well, Arwen.
Yes, Arwen is the one, the obvious one. But yeah, the other 2, a bit of an enigma.
Eladar and Elrohir.
Oh, well done. Elrohir and Aladdin. So
it's not Aladdin, no.
It's Eladdan. So like Aladdin.
Are you sure it's not an R at the end?
Yes. Elrohir and Aladdin, I think.
Eladdan.
I can look it up again. Elrond's children. I'm on flight mode, so I can't look it up.
Children.
But yeah, maybe you can look that up while I'm reading out the final quote.
Sure.
So I think this would be probably one of Tolkien's greatest quotes describing Lord Elrond, if not one of his greatest quotes overall. And this comes from the book The Hobbit. And it reads, "In those days of our tale, there were still some people who had both elves and heroes of the north for ancestors, and Elrond, the master of the house, was their chief. He was noble and as fair in face as an elf lord, as strong as a warrior, as wise as a wizard, as venerable as a king of dwarves, and as kind as summer." So there you have it, folks.
Kind as summer, yeah.
Kind as summer,
yeah. And you're right, it's Eladdan.
Eladdan, yeah, but I don't know how to say it.
Aladdin. Ed Jasmine.
Prince Ali, fabulous he, Ali Ababa.
Something fabulous he did it?
I think so, isn't it?
Well, maybe it is.
I think so. Let us know, folks.
Tune in next week for our breakdown on that song by Aladdin.
Yeah, we might get into Aladdin and just like talk about Aladdin and Jasmine. So, so yeah, any further questions or shall we leave it there? I think that's good.
I think I don't know, my brain is just such a load of mush now with all these family trees. Family trees are no joke.
Stuff, no. And especially when you get into the mathematical equations.
But it is good to know because, like, I mean, I've always known Elrond Half-Elven, but then whenever you see the family tree, you're like, okay, well, on one side, on his father's side, that you're like, okay, everything's fine there, but on the other side, you're like, wait a minute, there's another good thing going on here as well.
Yeah, Maya thrown into the mix there, so it gets confusing. It'd be a great quiz question. Like, what percentage of elf is Elrond? That'd be the nerdiest quiz ever.
Yeah, but even just looking at on his parents, when you look at, so Eärendil, his father is also half-elven, so you're kind of going, wait a minute, if he's half-elven and then he marries someone, sure, Elrond can't be half-elven.
Yeah,
there has to be some other sort of a combination, so yeah. Unless she
But it all kind of
exactly
balances itself. It all kind of balances itself out.
It's pretty close, yeah.
Yeah.
This evil cannot be concealed by the power of the elves. We do not have the strength to fight both Mordor and Isengard.
My father single-handedly sailed to Valinor and convinced the Valar to join the war and vanquish Morgoth. So great were his deeds that the Valar lifted him beyond the bounds of this world to forever carry the evening star across the sky.
But anyways, that's all we have time for today on the Council of Elrond. So guys, thank you so much for listening and let us know what your thoughts on today's episode are. by leaving us a comment on YouTube, or you can just tweet us at Mellon_Heads. Remember, that's Mellon with 2 L's. And all of our social media links are in the podcast info section, so you can see them down there. We're on Facebook, Twitter. I'm so used to saying Facebook, Twitter, Google+, but no. Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and that's it.
All the places.
All the places. So again, also if you'd like to support myself and Johnny with these podcasts, you can sign up to our Patreon, where you'll also get some bonus discussions there, and we talk about lots of other nerdy things too. Recently, we've been talking about the House of the Dragon, but who knows what we're going to be talking about next. So thank you to all of our patrons, and a special thank you to Jack Knightley. And until next time, guys, Namarie.
See you later, guys.